If you are deeply sensitized and your nervous system is kind of a wreck right now, our goal is not nervous system optimization. The goal is actually stop making this worse. Everything that you're going to want to do instinctively when you're sensitized is the opposite of what's actually going to help you. So if you don't know whether you're sensitized or dysregulated, I have a free quiz that you can take and I'm going to link it in the description. But here are 5 things I would not do if I were in the thick of sensitization. The first thing is very important, and that's to stop tracking your symptoms. I did this for way too long. I would wake up and I would immediately do a body scan. And you know how they talk about body scans of like relaxation? This was not a relaxation body scan. This was a symptom body scan. How is my jaw pain? How is my face? How are my feet? How is my anxiety? How did I sleep? Very neurotic, trying to figure out where are we at? Where are we starting for the day? And most importantly, how bad is this day going to be? I was doing a full assessment before I even got out of my bed. It was not helpful for me. And I think back to when I went to a neurologist for my facial pain and she handed me a migraine tracker and was like, I want you to track it. It had every day of the month, maybe a 30-day tracker. And she wanted me to track how often I was taking medication for it, how often it was happening, what the severity of it was, like literally focus on what is happening with your symptoms and track it. This may make sense for someone who isn't sensitized. I did not fall into that camp. I was severely sensitized by the time I was seeing that neurologist. So when your system is sensitized and it's already on very high alert, tracking is just going to bring more attention to the sensations. It's going to lock you harder into that OCD-like obsessive monitoring loop. So we don't want to do that. We want to break that loop, not keep it going. Your brain is already scanning for danger on its own. It doesn't need any help. It doesn't need to babysit your sensations. So when you add something like conscious tracking on top of that, you are essentially confirming to your brain there is something that needs to be monitored here. Can you see why that would be an issue? Your nervous system is always going to learn more from what you do. It's not going to learn from, what you know or what you think is important to pay attention to. It's going to learn from what is being modeled to me right now. And when we are constantly focusing, looping, tracking, and monitoring sensations, it says there must be a problem to watch. So we don't want to be giving that signal. And you also will notice that you'll feel more of those sensations. And one of the main reasons for that is you're just looking more. Have you ever noticed that when you are engaged in something you really care about, you forget about your symptoms, even for 60 seconds? That kind of shows you that where we focus, we really do flow energy to, we flow attention to. And we can accidentally turn up the volume on that stuff just due to attention alone. So that's something to keep an eye on. The question will always be, though, what do you do instead? If you notice that you're scanning, which don't judge yourself for that, it's going to happen automatically, unfortunately. You don't need to fight it. You don't need to do anything with it. Just redirect. And that doesn't mean distract. I really like to refer to it as engaging, like engage back in your life. Redirect to something else that is worthy of your attention, that's going to actually give you back something, give you back attention, give you back capacity. Get up, make your coffee, get ready for the day, go on a walk, go do something else. You're not achieving anything important by focusing on your symptoms and making sure you know where they started or where they are. It's a waste of your energy and you're fueling the wrong thing. You have to trust that as you get more developed with these skills, you'll know if something is actually truly wrong and needs your attention. Right now, it feels like everything needs your attention. We can't really take that at face value because everything feels like an emergency. That is part of sensitization. That's like the whole deal, is that everything is being interpreted as a threat. So we need to start breaking those loops by not adding that obsessive monitoring on top of it, that hypervigilance of your symptoms, and then calling that like a tool or a technique. The second thing is stop trying every new technique you find. Stop looking for new techniques every single day. Like I did a whole video on this last week. In fact, I'll link it here. The somatic tracking, the journaling, the everything that you see, maybe this will be it, maybe this will be it. Every new week, I was figuring something else out to try. So I was inconsistent with everything, and I was constantly looking for something else that would give me immediate relief and be like the thing that I needed. And some of those tools really are genuinely good, but not if your system is already maxed out. So if you've tried a bunch of tools and they haven't helped, that video I linked will help you understand a bit more why. But when your nervous system is sensitized, it can't really reliably tell the difference between stimulation that's helpful and stimulation that's threatening. It just is having to interpret an increase in input and an increase in more stuff that it has to categorize as helpful or unhelpful or dangerous or safe. And the bigger issue is every time you are reaching for a tool, because you've identified that there's something there that you don't want to be there, you are reinforcing that there is discomfort that you can't be with. There's discomfort that must be shifted. It's not okay for that discomfort to exist, AKA there's an active problem to be solved here. So your brain will go to work alerting you to that louder and louder to get your attention. That causes even really well-intentioned tools to be used as a weapon against us. And you don't want to be doing that. You want to use what capacity and resources you have on things that will actually move the needle. In this case, it's realizing that your system does not need more tools right now. The skill that actually matters is building your capacity to feel something that is bad without needing to do anything about it. I know you don't like that. I didn't like it either. Not everyone is a huge fan of my content, right? Because it's telling you something that seems so simple and it can be misinterpreted as like, just suffer forever until you're not suffering anymore. That is not what I'm teaching you here. That is not what I teach. It's not what I believe. Is there suffering involved? Yeah, especially when you pour a lot of pain and suffering on top of the pain you're experiencing. Is suffering required? No, not when you learn the principles of acceptance and allowing and surrender. So it's really about getting clear that there's a difference here between needing more tools and needing to build capacity. And we can save the tools for later. We have to get better at feeling bad. We have to get better at not rushing to solve problems. And we don't like that because it feels like we're giving up, or it feels like there's nothing we can do. It feels like I have to suffer with no relief. And that's not what I'm teaching. It's about the change in response. It's about letting discomfort be there. It's about building that capacity in the most efficient way possible, which is allowing and accepting and changing your response and really making a recovery from a chronic fear state, which is where you have found yourself kind of locked into at this point. So the tools can come later once you've desensitized. But for now, I really want you to focus on principles versus processes and very specific techniques and rigid protocols, because that will often just add more tax onto an already overworked system. Number 3 is don't force exposure to everything, but don't wait to feel completely ready either. Yes, you need to re-enter your life. You need to get back to living life. But if you're white knuckling through everything just so that you can like prove that you can, or if you were maybe a perfectionist in your past life and something that you're trying to recover from, it's not just about like overpowering, pushing through everything, not listening at all when your body needs rest. That's not being brave, even though you may feel like it is. I think a lot of people have pushed themselves to a place of a real body shutdown because they've pushed and pushed with that pressure of overriding everything. I used to do that, you going to things when you already feel like your system is wrecked and saying yes, even when everything inside of you wants to say no and you don't want to go to things, and really pushing yourself past that capacity. And doing that for a long time contributes to kind of what got us here in the first place. But that's why I want to specifically discuss the difference between expanding what your life looks like, expanding what you expose yourself to, and forcing yourself to do things no matter what, no matter how you feel, no matter what the scenario. And I really like to describe it as what's the energy behind it. Because if I tell someone, which people don't like when I say this, if I tell someone you need to get back to living your life, it's going to be very important what you personally hear when I say that. Some people hear, oh, so I need to get back to living life completely normally by tomorrow. No. You need to start expanding your life beyond what you have been living it at now. Like, what have you been doing? We need to expand that. We don't need to force it. We need to check the energy behind it. But I just want to bring that up in case you are one of those people that hears that and just feels so much resistance. I can't live my life. There are so many things I can't do. You have a life right now, and we must expand what that looks like so that, yeah, you get to the place where you are living life in a way that looks the way it would look if you weren't dealing with any chronic symptoms. That is true. That is where we're headed, but we're not going to get there tomorrow. And we have to be aware of those places where our brain immediately hears information and then shuts down and goes, that won't work for me. I was the queen of that when I was severely sensitized. Nobody could help me. Nothing would work. I was so sure that I knew more than everyone else that when they would bring up something like acceptance, like a lot of the things I talk about here, I would immediately, nope, not going to work for me. No, this is too simple. Oh no, that's just giving up. That's just suffering until it goes away. That didn't work for me. I've already been doing that. It was like anything to push away what was going to actually help me. And my whole point in showing up here and making videos like this is to help you prevent making the same mistakes that I did. Okay. It wouldn't be a video by me if I didn't go on a tangent. Getting back to the difference between expanding and forcing. Forcing has the quality of making yourself do it, gritting your teeth, overriding everything inside of yourself. And you're going to have to override some of your excuses. You're going to have to override some of the self-imposed limits and that nocebo effect that we have, where we really tell ourselves, I can't do that. Can't is different than won't. These are two completely separate things. And I know that it can feel like you can't because you had an experience where you did. And when you did, symptoms went up, or maybe your body totally went into a flare, or it fully crashed out and your brain went, we can't do that anymore. Because when we do, this happens, and it has now flagged that in your brain as we can't do that. We have to challenge those beliefs, because at this point it does become beliefs of what we are capable of doing and what we are not capable of doing. Your nervous system will pick up on the difference between forcing versus expanding. And it knows the difference between actually letting something be there and you bracing and holding your breath until it passes, or forcing and pushing and overriding yourself to the point where things kind of crash out. When you force your way through something, you are not teaching your system how to do anything new. You're showing it what it looks like to continue just surviving through something. So what do you do instead? You're never going to feel ready. So waiting to feel ready is 100% going to land in a dead end. Like I like to say, recovery doesn't come knocking on your door. It's not going to be like, hello, it's time to go out for a walk. That's going to be on you, my friend. But expanding your exposure to things is doing the thing while letting the discomfort come with you. And there's a softness to it. That's why, my program is called Soft Regulation. This isn't about everything being easy, but it is about bringing a softer component, which is literally the polar opposite from forcing. And so that's an important distinction that I want to make. You're not fighting what you feel. You're not. That's going to be there no matter what, but you are letting it be there while you do the thing that you want to do, that thing that exposes you and expands you gently. As gently as possible, because I know a lot of this doesn't feel gentle at all. The fact of the matter is you're going to feel bad either way, and you might as well feel bad while you actually start to enjoy fun things. Going out to get, a cup of ice cream, going down to the beach to hear the waves, doing things that you weren't doing before that don't totally stretch you, but do kind of stretch you. And then we do that over time. And in time, your life grows. Number 4 is don't organize your entire life around avoiding symptoms. When I was really deep into all of this, I started engineering my entire life around avoiding any triggers. If there was any way I could get triggered, it's easy. I'll just stop doing that thing. I won't go there. I won't eat that. I won't agree to this outing, because I'm trying to keep myself safe. I would stop going places. I would say no to everything. And every decision that I had to make for my day and my life was ran through this filter of, is this going to set me off in any way? And over time, your world, it just shrinks and shrinks and shrinks until you really feel like you're doing nothing and you're just stuck at your house. When you build your life around avoiding everything that could possibly trigger you, the message that your nervous system never gets is that you have the ability to handle things. It never gets that updated software update where it's like, hey, we're good. We're always living with no capacity. And we don't want to stay there for very long. And then when you get to a point where your world has shrunken so much, you have nothing to do, your world is so small, your attention is going to default to your symptoms. What else is there to focus on? Your life is going to keep getting smaller and you will continue feeling worse because so much of your life is now being taken up with thoughts about your symptoms, focusing on your body. It gets very self-focused. And I don't say that to shame anybody, but it does get a little bit selfish in the sense that all we can think about is us and what we're going through and our pain and our capacity and what we've lost and what we're missing out on. It's a pretty toxic loop to get stuck in. And I speak as someone who was fully in that loop and is very, very happy and grateful to finally be out of it. So what do we do instead? You need things to do. You need to engage in things. You need structure in your life. You need things that pull your attention to somewhere outside of your body. It's funny. I was thinking about how I did a success story on one of my friends' channels on YouTube. And at the time that we did it, it was just a couple months ago, maybe 2-3 months ago. And we talked at the end about how I felt like I was about 80% better. Like that was huge, 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 huge. And as you know, I've started pouring more time into helping people. I created a desensitization course. I make content here. I have a podcast. I do YouTube. I do short form content. My symptoms are probably 95% gone. I have the weird, odd flare up. I am shocked at how much my healing picked up when I was engaged in helping other people, in sharing my story. I had a lot of thoughts about sharing this prematurely. Oftentimes, and you can apply this to anywhere in your life, you feel like you want to be at the end of it before you can help people or before you can share your experience being from the very end. But I knew I needed to share sooner than that. There was just something in me that was like, no, people need help now. But I'm just so surprised at when my attention was fully engaged in something beyond myself, beyond my symptoms, beyond my small world. As I desensitized for 4 to 6 months, my world got bigger. The last 6 months, 7 months have been transformational for my life. It's like I moved into this second phase of things that I needed to change and relationships that needed to end and conversations that needed to be had and changes in my business. And it was almost like that was like the last piece of what I needed in order to fully heal, which I feel like I feel healed. I do not live in chronic pain. I don't have chronic symptoms of any type. I have occasional flare-ups, and I don't have this chronic fear. I'm no longer sensitized. I deal with mild dysregulation like every normal person, but I want to bring that up because it's so important for you to be engaged in your life, for you to start slowly. Now, mind you, this has been over a year for me. You start expanding your life, desensitizing, allowing, getting back into life, engaging in things that make you happy, bringing in joy, connecting with people, doing things that light you up. And it's like the brain knows what to do. It knows how to heal it. And it stops using the pain circuits. I have been using the pain circuits way less because I'm not doom scrolling for 9 hours a day. I'm not focusing on myself all the time. I'm not focusing on my pain and my sensations. I am engaged in work that is fulfilling and a life that is fulfilling that I've really been cultivating over the last 6 months. So I don't want to downplay that at all. I think a lot of that had to do with the work I've done over the last 6 months, especially outside of desensitization, because I do feel like I moved into that phase of more dysregulation and kind of working on life stuff, which I don't recommend doing when you're in the throes of sensitization. But don't be surprised at how fast things can move the quicker we take the focus off of us and our symptoms and place it into other things that actually refill our cup. Very explicitly, they do that. It is something that is restorative. And when you're sensitized, you're in full-on fight or flight survival. There is nothing that is refilling that for you. So again, another tangent, but very, very important for me to talk about. Most of the time, you need to be weighing out I can't versus I won't. It's very important to challenge any beliefs that you have about what you're capable of. And it doesn't mean just run straight past them and do everything and live like you were living when you were 21 tomorrow. That's not what I'm saying, but we will have to start slowly expanding so that you start developing new beliefs of what you're capable of. Because that's when your world changes from being so shrunken down to like, oh, well, I couldn't do that. Well, I couldn't do that. And you'll find yourself saying things like 6 months ago, I wouldn't have dreamt of going on this trip. I wouldn't have dreamt of having this event. I wouldn't have dreamt of applying for this job. You will see your capacity growing right in front of your eyes. Life itself is what desensitizes you. And then life is what regulates you too. And it's a beautiful, beautiful path. Number 5, stop treating every setback like you messed something up. I hear this constantly. Even in the past week, I've received multiple messages from people who were doing well for days or even weeks or even a month. Someone had been doing amazing for a month with really bad insomnia. They had one night of wonky sleep and they were spinning out, like thinking that they were just doubting everything and like they were back to square one. Recovery is not linear. You are going to start seeing these moments stretch out more and more. Minutes at first, hours next, days, weeks, months. And then you'll have these things that pop up. You're like, how did this happen? I thought I was doing so good. Watch for that type of language. You don't need to worry about that. You are going to have random things pop up. And when they do, what matters most? What has always mattered most, which is your response. If one day of symptoms or a flare, which is so common as you're moving further toward desensitization, if that totally throws you off your game, we still have some work to do. Luckily, we get to do that work with experiences that are more spread out. Like if you only get the chance to do this once a month because you have one horrible night of insomnia once a month, we need to use that opportunity because you're not getting the chance to do it as much as you were before when it was more chronic. Every time symptoms pop up, it doesn't mean you messed anything up. What's needed now is what has always been needed, which is a response with confidence, a response with less fear, and realizing that something new isn't required from me in this moment. Let it be there. Don't make it mean anything. Do not turn it into another project. Do not think you're missing something. Every time you catastrophize a spike in symptoms or sensations, you are, reinforcing that old loop. So every time you decide on purpose, I'm not going to catastrophize this, you are helping your system learn that it can settle on its own. And the truth about recovery is that you are going to notice that you have sensations that can last for an hour and then they are gone. They can last for a day. Next day, they're gone. That's a really fun part to get to because you're like, oh no, this is something that used to last for weeks. And then by the next day, it's gone. And you will notice, wow, my nervous system is really figuring this out. It's really working through this. It's coming up and we don't respond with fear and it just like turns it back off. And it's like, okay, this doesn't seem very important. Okay, so everything I've talked about in today's video is stabilization work. That is what I see desensitization as. We are trying to get you from a place where you are so destabilized and you have no capacity to a place where, okay, we're getting access to new parts of our brain. We have some critical thinking, some logical thinking, rational thinking is back on board. That's where we want to get you to. When you're sensitized, you are not at a stage where optimization or deeper healing work or tools are even going to land. Your system can't hold it yet. It's not even worth a try. It's not a good use of your energy. The goal that you have right now, the goal that I have for you is that we stop making things worse so that your system can do what it knows how to do, which is to stabilize. Once you get that baseline down and the stress and where you normally live comes down, your capacity is going to go up. And that is desensitization. That is not the end of the path. You heard me talk a little bit about that today. It's not just to stabilize you so that you're out of the hole. Because if we just get you out of the hole, you may live in a place that is kind of teetering between sensitization and dysregulation. At that point, when you're stabilized, there are a lot of the time like life changes that need to happen. I like to say the rules change, the game changes. And that's when tools can be very helpful. They can be helpful instead of hurt you. You don't rely on tools. You don't feel like if I don't do my tools perfectly, I'm going to fall back into a place of being severely sensitized or I'm going to lose the progress that I've made. That is when you have the capacity to do that deeper work. And I'm going to be talking a lot more about that, about what that second stage looks like. What does it look like when you're not sensitized anymore? What does it look like when you're like, okay, I'm out of the hole, but I have all of these personality traits and ways that I've lived my life. I'm used to people pleasing and chronically burning myself out. And I work a job that I hate and my relationships are off. Like, there are changes that need to be made once you're stabilized. So there will be more information coming on that, more content to help you, because I don't want you to just get out of that hole and then for that to be so unfamiliar that you accidentally fall back into that hole. Once you aren't in the thick of it, you will be in another stage. And it's important that we talk about that. And it's something that I'm really passionate about talking about. So if you are not there yet, if you are fully sensitized, don't skip trying to get to the next phase. The only way to the next phase is through desensitization. It's very important and it's such foundational work. There is nobody that will not benefit from learning distress tolerance, learning how to be with discomfort, learning how to accept what needs to be accepted and to not fight against reality and to allow what's there without resistance and fear, while also knowing that you can do those things while working toward a future that you want to build and create and a life that you actually want to live. It's not just about getting out of the fear. It's about moving into a place where you create a life that you don't need to recover from. And a lot of us created a life that we all now need to do the work to recover from, to desensitize. If you're not sure whether you're sensitized, again, I have a quiz that you can take linked in the description, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye, everyone.